I'm Alexander Green. I'm the founder and lead artist at Symmetry Labs. We got a prompt from the Howard Hughes Corporation, who asked us to make a piece of public art for the South Street Seaport in New York City. I immediately started thinking of the history of the seaport and navigation and oceans, and thought of making something that looked like a constellation that was both reminiscent of the seaport's history and also something that's fascinated me for a long time. Ever since I was a kid, I loved the stars and loved to think about the stars and what was happening. And I thought there was something really beautiful in making a constellation, but on the ground, that you could interact with. Our art director, Nathaniel, drew up a couple sketches of the suns, and we moved from there quickly into more serious design, into CAD and figuring out how we would actually build these things, and then kicked off the design and fabrication a few weeks into October. Part of the prompt was to make an interactive piece of art, and tracking people over such a large area is not a solved problem. We had to come up with a way to reliably track people over a very large area, about 30 by 40 meters, and we had to do it fast. I turned to a friend and someone whose art I've long admired, Ka-Ping Yi. Ping wrote some optical flow algorithms from scratch to take in the thermal data and detect blobs with high accuracy. We then had to map the 2D plane from the camera into real space around the sculptures so that we knew where the people were relative to the sculptures and could have the animations on the sculptures respond to people's movement reliably. This whole project was engineered and designed under incredible time pressure. We basically went from design to engineering to fabrication and production, all within about 6 weeks. The first step was to figure out who could build the acrylic semispheres, and we must have called 30 different acrylic manufacturers and plastics manufacturers around the country. No one would do it in time. We found one place in Southern California that could make the spheres to the size and specifications that we needed in the time, and we went with them. After the acrylic was complete in Southern California, we shipped it up to Washington and got started on the internal armature that supports the LEDs.
So we just received the shipment of all the acrylic pieces to create the fixtures for the Sea of Light project. We have about half of the acrylic here right now. We have one more trip that's going to bring the rest of it up. Each of these is going to go together and get placed out in New York City with thousands of LEDs under each one. And this is really the first step in us getting them all put together and getting them ready to go to New York.
We designed pretty complicated internal armatures for the LED strips. Like the acrylic, we called everyone trying to find a shop that could vacuum form these complex armatures in the time that we needed. Luckily, we found a local vendor near our shop in Washington that could do it.
We're over here at Full Bore Innovations, where they're making the armatures for our LEDs that go inside the fixtures. They got an oven running at 400 to 500 degrees to melt this plastic and form it onto the mold. They took 18 sheets of 1.5 inch thick, medium density fiberboard. They cut it down on a 5-axis router to make our mold. Then they heat up massive sheets of plastic in an oven. When they come out at just the right viscosity so that they can plunge the mold down in. And they've already drilled holes in the mold, and a vacuum sucks and makes negative pressure on the plastic, forming it right to the mold. Then a bunch of fans kick on and cool it down to the right temperature that they can release it off the mold, remove it, and deliver it to us.
Around Thanksgiving, we finally got all the parts together in Washington, and we were just waiting on the LEDs from China. The FDA actually regulates LEDs now, which is news to me, and we got held up. Every conceivable thing that could have gone wrong did.
So I just got off the phone with FedEx, and they messed up our priority first international shipment, and we're not going to have any of our LEDs now until Monday. They're here in Portland in a shipping box, but they won't crack the shipping box open for us off the dock until Monday. If we don't get the LEDs till Monday, I don't know if we'd be able to get them done in time to ship Tuesday afternoon. We'd probably be on Wednesday or Thursday, and now we're backing into the show date.
The acrylic manufacturers assured us that they could engineer the two halves of the acrylic to meet at a perfect point along the hemispheres. They let us know, in fact, they couldn't do that, and they would have to put these internal braces in order to support the acrylic halves. But we only found that out the day that we picked the acrylic up. This caused us an incredible amount of headaches. We had to cut holes in the internal armatures, and the LEDs were bent around them, so a lot of them went bad during shipping and even during the actual event in New York City. It took a ton of ingenuity and creativity to get out of that hole we found ourselves in.
All right, we're back at the fabrication studio now. We've got our thermoformed plastic pieces here. We've been labeling them for the installation of the LEDs and cutting away the excess on the sheets that's left over from the forming. Once we're done removing the excess material from the armatures, we mount the armatures to a backplane. The backplanes have power buses and power supplies to distribute the 5-volt power throughout the system. Once the vacuum formed plastic is ready, we mount them onto the backplate, and then they end up looking like this. Alright, so I just got off the phone with FedEx. Turns out they found about half of our shipment. They got it unloaded for us and they brought it up to the counter. So we're gonna head down there, grab those boxes. That'll give us enough work to get started on for the weekend, where we can get the rest of it on Monday and stay on schedule.
We got the first LEDs in and got to work. We only had a week to assemble 11 very sophisticated sculptures that we had never built before. We hired a massive team of friends of friends, people off Craigslist, really anyone we could find, and we got to work. The process was completely insane and chaotic.
We're getting the first bit of LEDs put on the armatures here. We've got all the LEDs pre-made to set lengths to go up and down the armature. Each one has their power injection and data already mounted. So we just need to stick them all on. We're gonna put a waterproof coating on, route the wires behind, and plug everything in. So you need one of these as well.
Yeah.
And you need to go like this. Here's 68, it goes to 67. Boom. 67. Figuring out how to get all of our information conveyed properly to a large team is always a challenge. So what we've done here is we've labeled everything right on the armature, so people don't have to use this annoying sheet to figure out what strips go where. Well, we got the rest of the acrylic here. It's gonna be a lot of fun unloading it. I think there's 600 to 900 pound sheets of acrylic in there, and they're almost the same width as the door. So we didn't get our LED shipment today, again. So then we had all the laborers come in to do all the work with all the LEDs, which was way too many laborers, so we had to send some people home. And then we had to figure out what to do with all the rest of them, because we know there's work to be done, but it just requires a lot more management than the repetitive task of sorting LED strips and installing them onto these armatures.
We should also test the one that is finished. Like, we should make sure to test that like daily till it ships, just to make sure that it stays finished.
With such a short timeline for this project, we didn't have all of our engineering 100% the way we normally would, so we had to deal with a few problems on the fly, which is not too bad. It's a fun exercise. Probably have about 16 people here, applying LED strips, notching holes in armatures, setting up the shop for tomorrow, all kinds of things.
So there's 4 different size sculptures in the installation. We have basically full suns, half suns, 2/3 suns, and 1/3 suns. This is a 1/3, it's been fully tested. Josh and Sam and Nate have been debugging and getting ready this 2/3 sun. So it's like almost 8,000 LEDs a side in the 2/3. It's really a crazy intricate project. And then the full suns are over here. We have a whole team building and wiring it. The wiring is just unbelievable for these things. It's very complicated, but they're killing it. So the LEDs are mounted on these vacuum formed armatures. They have to be carefully placed along the axis of the armature and then wired up to the power supplies and to the LED controllers. But as you can see, the team has done a really beautiful job on all these, and the process has gotten a lot faster over the last couple of days as we figured out all the kinks and realized how to optimize and parallelize it.
So our LEDs that didn't arrive on Monday did not arrive this morning. So they fell off the back of the airplane, I guess. I didn't know that happened. They almost certainly will be here tomorrow morning. It would be incredibly crazy if they were a whole nother day late with first priority overnight international shipping that's nearly a week late. So. But yeah, they almost certainly will be here tomorrow. They're here tomorrow. We're going to keep working until we get all the rest of these things done. So our number of days of work are slowly getting extended. Please, everyone, thanks FedEx for your additional hours. But our goal for today is to try to get every single one of these suns that's already covered in LEDs covered in its final coating of Flex Seal that's going to keep the LEDs stuck on, completely tested and running, and then mounted to their base permanently, closed up with the cover on, the base painted, ready to ship out. And then we might ship all of these out tomorrow morning, and then keep working on the other suns and ship them out in a second shipment.
How many more do we have?
Couple more?
Because we should open the door and have a system. Cool, thanks.
We weren't quite done building the sculptures, but it was go time. We had to ship them or we wouldn't make showtime in New York City. We packed all the sculptures up on a truck, headed directly to New York City from Washington with no stops, and they were able to get there in under 72 hours. When we arrived in New York City, we faced numerous obstacles. It was freezing cold, we had nowhere to work, the AC power that we were told was there wasn't accurate. We had only a few days to build all these sculptures, build cable ramps, build an entire AC power distribution system, and then get all the software and the mapping working.
We're here in Manhattan at the South Street Seaport. We've got all 11 of our stages in place where the light fixtures will be mounted tomorrow morning. We've got 2 trucks on the road with all the fixtures on their way here. We've got a team of guys working around the clock to get this in place. We've got state-of-the-art thermal cameras going in on top of the buildings around the installation. They're going to track people's movements as they walk through the installation, providing an interactivity between the movement of the people and the movement of the light.
Due to incredible effort and incredible team, and many all-nighters, we were able to get it working just hours before showtime on December 5th. Opening night was even more of a success than we could have imagined. Nearly 5,000 people showed up on a rainy Tuesday. Aluna George played a set. The sculptures impressively survived the wind, have survived 2 feet of snow since. The whole project is a feat of engineering and design, and I'm so proud of our team for finishing on time and sticking together despite the challenges and the incredible roadblocks that appeared in front of us.
It's been a real pleasure to put an installation up in such a public space. Having all these locals and tourists come through asking us about what we're doing has really brought our excitement levels up with their excitement about our project. We are so overjoyed to be bringing this piece to Manhattan and offering it to the world.
The Sea of Light is up from December until mid-March in the Seaport District of New York City. Thanks so much to the Howard Hughes Corporation, and especially Steve Cornwell, for having the vision and audacity to pull something like this off.